Welcome to Mantis Dry Fire Monday, where our goal every single week is to help you get better with your handgun skills. It's sponsored by the Mantis X10 Firearms Performance System. Today I want to talk to you about thumb over on the draw or thumb behind. Let's talk about it. The new Mantis X10 Firearms Performance System has all the goodness of the original, plus holster draw analysis and recoil analysis. It's a fantastic upgrade and I recommend it highly. So a little while ago, I really went from a change in my understanding of the kind of most efficient way to draw a firearm and the most effective way to draw a firearm from what, the late Paul Gomez called the full blanking firing grip, the full firing grip, to a claw grip to get the gun out of the holster, particularly from appendix, but also from the strong side. And I'm going to give you a little bit of understanding of why, and then encourage you to do some dry fire reps and just see kind of what makes best sense to you, what works for you in your environment. And I'm going to tell you why I changed. Now, couple things. Number one, we're talking about small increments of time here. However, in my kind of dry fire practice, I'm going to do some on camera and you'll be able to see whether or not that holds true in these next few reps. So I'm seeing about a 1/1500ths difference in the claw grip as opposed to a full firing grip. And you go, gosh, John, 1/1500ths isn't that big a deal, except for several times recently on the main channel, we have seen the difference between a 2.0, a 1.5, a 1.0 draw to first shot. And those 1/1500ths of a second can really make a difference in the presentation that the bad guy gives you in a lot of gunfights. So I really think that these kind of things are not meaningless increments of speed. I think they can be very, very meaningful. Secondly, I'm going to make a couple other arguments to you. Number one, I think that it depends on the kind of gun that you are using. So I am running here. This is Benvolio, my P30, and it's a P30 with a LEM trigger on the back. So you can see there I have the LEM trigger. This is a hammer-fired gun. So if you're carrying a striker-fired gun, maybe some of these things won't necessarily apply to you unless you're carrying a Glock with the striker control device, which if you're carrying a Glock, I do highly recommend the striker control device. The reason that I have moved to this, and that's a separate video, but one of the reasons that I moved to the LEM trigger is that when I'm going back to the holster, what I do here is I've done all the pew that I'm going to do, pew, 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 pew. Then I put my thumb over the hammer, and what that does for me with my thumb over the hammer is that if something were to go wrong here and something impinges the trigger, which we shouldn't because we're smart, we're looking our gun into the holster, we're taking our time holstering, but if it does, my thumb blocks the hammer from moving, blocks the gun from firing. If you're carrying a single action only gun, same thing, put your thumb on the hammer, then the hammer can't move. So when I go back to the holster here, right, it gives me one additional layer of safety while I put the gun away. But here's another thought for you. When I go thumb over out of the holster, I go beep, shooter ready, standby, beep, boom, gun starts coming out of the holster. Notice as well that my thumb has blocked the hammer. So I know some people say, oh yeah, but pulling the gun out of the holster, you're going to shoot yourself in the junk. Actually, with my thumb over, even if I do the egregiously stupid thing of putting my finger on the trigger too early, I can't move the hammer until the gun comes up. I slide my thumb over as I acquire my master grip and rock and roll. Now, if I'm going to come back to a thumb pectoral index, same thing. Rotate the thumb over to the strong side for the thumb pectoral index to allow the hammer to move, and I think that's an advantage. So I think that from a safety perspective, one of the things that it lets me do is when I'm acting quickly, it gives me just a tiny bit more safety. Now, of course, my holster should be properly set up. Everything should be properly set up, that I'm not pointing a gun at my meaty bits, that I'm never, even when the gun's in hand here, the muzzle is pointed just outside my wetting tackle, and I'm not going to shoot myself in the nether regions if I make that egregious a mistake. But one of the things that I talk about a lot in classes is that people take firearm safety as binary. It's either is or it's not. Whereas reality, safety is a continuum, and you can add safety features and add layers that, as long as they don't affect function, I think is very, very helpful, and that's one for me. So when I'm gonna go from the claw grip, right, I might be here, hands on the side. I've never seen a gunfight start hands at sides. I've seen several that started, hey man, I don't want any problems. People are kind of cheating their way. I see some start from a defensive fence, hey man, I don't want any problems, whatever. Or I see an awful lot go, oh, that guy needs to get shot. So it's just going to start from, it's just here, whatever. Oh, that guy needs to be shot right there. So then I get my thumb over and then drive the gun up, get my hands on the gun and rock and roll. safely holster, right? So I think that's a thing. But if you're into that full firing grip instead, here's a couple things. Number one, see, I'm wearing an inside the waistband holster, and I get it. It's a black t-shirt, and so you guys are like, I can't see very well. But you understand, it's an inside the waistband holster. This is a keeper's concealment keeper with my P30 Benvolio in it. Okay, fine, I'm wearing a Wilderness tactical belt. And because of that, this gun sits very tight on my body. And that's one of the reasons I wear an undershirt, in fact, because I don't like the feel of a gun on my skin all day. So the fact that it sits tight on my body, if I'm gonna drive my thumb back behind, then I have to kind of adjust that. And yes, I am fluffier than some. If you've been around active self-protection a while, you know I'm down about 55 pounds, give or take, maybe 60. I was down as low as 60, now I'm more 50, 55, somewhere in that ballpark, but I've kept it off, so life is pretty good. But I'm still a little fluffier than some. Okay, fine, family genetics, food tastes delicious, my knees are hurting, so it's kind of hard to get some exercise done, life is good, you get it, right? So anyhow, you know, this allows me, I can drive a full firing grip and drive behind the gun. I can do that, I have that right here, but it does take me time to do that. The next thing, the reason that I do this, and again, I'm just giving you options here, is as I get the gun out, let's just say the gun's coming out. Now, you see with my firing hand, I have all this space available on the side of the gun, so that as the gun comes out and I let my cover garment go, I have all this space available to set my support hand into the gun and then drive my dominant hand back behind it, my dominant thumb back behind it, see my dot, press my shot. Whereas if I come out of the holster with a full firing grip, what you notice happen is I closed some of this space down. So when I get my support hand on the gun, I kind of got to fit it into that, and it drives my support hand a little bit farther forward than I really like. So this lets me get more of my support hand towards the back of the gun where I can control recoil a little bit more that I like. So with all that in mind, I prefer a claw grip for the safety aspect, for the clearing of the space for my support hand as I go drive the gun forward and go fast with the gun. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do that, but I would encourage you to maybe put it on the clock as you draw from concealment to get going. So I'm going to show you kind of how I do that now. And I'm showing more and more appendix. If you're doing strong side, same thing, right? Gun's going to be super tight to your body. So as you drive your hand back, having that thumb on the gun is going to do the same thing as opposed to driving your thumb back behind, which kind of makes me turn my wrist a little bit, makes it harder to get a full firing grip from behind here. Okay, so let's get set up with some draws to first shot. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've actually set my Mantis X10 up on a magazine because that's how I do this, and I have my phone set to the holster draw analysis. Now let's see what we get in terms of timing, shall we? I'm gonna actually see if it'll let me record. There it goes. First claw grip. That was a really poor draw. Really poor draw, 109. Missed everything about it. Ugly. Let's try again. Pool tranquility.
Stand by.
Stab crash. That was a better draw. Okay. All right, we got a 9-9 out of that. 9-9. Try a couple more, see what we get. Pool tranquility, stab crash. Ooh, that was a good draw there. Just using a 1/3 size IPSC steel target, or IPSC target. 108 on that one, not super fast.
Stand by.
Ooh, that felt like a Gabe White kind of slap draw. Okay, that was a 1 1/4, took me forever.
Stand by.
Okay, that was a pretty good one. Pretty spicy. Saw my dot, pressed my shot, 102. Feel good about that. Trying to get an A-zone hit. It's the equivalent of about 8 or 9 yards from where I am. Claw grip. Oh, I bobbled it a little bit there. Okay, so let's stop that, and you can see here, 107 total average. Now I'm a 0.31, except for that 125. I was a little bit slow when you saw that one, and had a 0.4 on there too. Yuck. Okay, so a 107 average, and you can see, you know, I only had one under a second, which means John's running slow today. It happens. Now, I'm going to change this now and do it from the full firing grip perspective and see what that does. Now, you're going to recognize the fact that I don't practice a full firing grip as often, but let's see if we see some significant difference. Full firing grip.
Stand by.
Boy, you saw the hitch there. It's just harder to do. Takes me longer. Yeah, 112.
Stand by.
Yeah, it definitely takes me longer to get the gun out of the holster. I could certainly feel that there. It was very fast to the gun there, 12.26, but a 114 total shot because it took longer. Okay, that one I kind of hybrided a little. That felt like an okay shot, 115.
Stand by.
So to get that thumb back there, man, it's taken me longer. It's the bottom line. So that was a 132. It took me forever once I got the gun there because I had to adjust my grip. All right, saw my shot there, saw my dot really well, pressed my shot. Okay, let's take a look at these. Now then, 120. I'm running slow today, and I don't know why. My hands just are not going very fast. So you see 0.28 to the holster, so I'm just as fast to the holster. But notice 0.56 to get the gun out of the holster and vertical. And so it's just taking me longer, guys. That's why I'm having a 120, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying when I'm driving the gun back here and getting the gun out, it takes longer to do so. So here is my recommendation to you. What I want you to do is I want you to do some draws to first shot. I want you to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm gonna get myself a timer. If you have a Mantis X10, awesome, that's an easy way to do it. Use the holster draw analysis tool. If you don't, grab your timer, set your video camera up, whatever, and then just hit that beep and go, okay, well, what do I have here? The claw grip. Now, I think when you try them, the claw grip is going to come out faster because what that does, it lets me set the hand like this, get the high tang grip that I want. The gun comes out, clears all this space. Second hand gets on the gun, crash to it, and drive and get your sights. I think that you'll find, all things considered, it's faster and better to do it that way. But I encourage you to do some research on your own, do some homework on your own, do a bunch of training with that, and get some setting as to whether or not this is faster for you. Certainly is for me. It's the way that I run now and the way that I teach once we move especially to appendix carry, and I think it's actually safer too. So let's talk about it and do some dry fire this week. Let me know what you find in the comments, would you? Talk to you soon.